A bit of contrariness is, or a bit of contrariness is God's golden attributions. What sort of attributions can God grant the man, right? Howdy. The man grants over certain attributions. The ones being, if you're influenced by anything on the external world at all, and then how do you frame or categorize all that is outside of you, the other outside of you, right? How do you frame it? Well, part of one of God's golden attributions is to let the mind wander so close to the periphery of the range, the syntactic range, the normal use range, the range of dialogues and dialectic form, structure, and banter, the norms of banter. I mean, more voices need to be piercingly articulate about policy, but I figure, hey, I'm a human organism just like the rest of y'all, but there's different classes of cases. And so, even though I believe that a person who believes in political change, real change, change of the world, change of something, change of form of action of human and organismal and inorganic and organic material, right, that humans mess with, and the policies that reflect a habitable and well wished for world, but well wished for to by whom? In what zeitgeist? In what age? In what history or what tradition? Right? Whose zeitgeist? Whose memory? Ancient Indians, the first migratorial Indians to come over the Bering Strait to the U.S. That's where I'm speaking to you from. All you people in England probably thought I was an expat hanging out over there in England. I'm not. Anyway, the antithesis of to the average, a Dutch phrase, to the average, naar die gemiddelde. Something like that. Here, let me see if I can play it.
Naar de gemiddelde.
Naar die gemiddelde. Sounds like naar die gym dildo. Anyway, so I'm your dildo candidate. The reason I say that is because, the only thing that's going to beat Donald Trump, the only one that is going to beat Donald Trump, besides maybe Bernie Sanders, right, is a diplomacist. And I am a diplomacist. Unfortunately, I don't always hear the call for action, call for statements. Instead show call for being, which is mere being is just being a tourist walking by, not engaging your universe, not talking to those who are around you, right? But then to forfeit this engagement for an intended causal, possibly self-shoring up through one's community, a begging, a positing of presence, and then a begging that those who I went to high school with, the rich ones, the inheritors of large corporations for estates, to not ask them to back a candidacy. It's almost a forgivable sin. I forgave myself internally, but exteriorly, I blew a 30-year chance to sit around and horseshit about the details of people's inner lives, how they're doing, to get short quip. Not too bad. But then just the phenomenological engagement. I'm not trying to shit on the experience. It was fabulous. My reunion was amazing. I'm wearing the same shirt that I wore there yesterday. Anyway, point is solipsistically, phenomenologically, from one's point of view as a solipsist, you're responsible for the very dimensions of the universe. You're taught that you're responsible. Now, you can deny that you're responsible. Certainly, it's arguable domain. It's a range line. It's a chalk line on a football court, certainly. But what does one deny of their multiplicity of potentialities, especially inert inner strengths? Inert. Inert in that you hold them inert, right? Not inert. Inert in the sense of gold, but still malleable, such that you could blow or melt gold and harden it into a wand that was wider than a football chalk line to move one's being over phenomenologically, right? Such as to affect the real world. Now, I had a duty upon myself and my classmates, and I didn't take the chance, and I was really pissed because I wasn't even certain I was going to go or make it. But I sold a painting. I got broke in New York, blew all my whole bank account, knocked me down. I'm in the red, right? So I'm taking Ubers and catching late fees for each one, I think. It's a real pain in the ass. So, anyway, but I sold a painting in the nick of time, so I was able to not go to the bank and put money in, but say, I'll suffer the late fees. Give me an Uber to the party. Party required, the reunion required a digital fee, a digital purchase. But I thought, hey, I'll just sit in the main bar, and then when people come by, I'll say hi to them, right? But right when I went in, I realized, like, hey, just, John Farmer shows up. He was one of the guys that was running it. Kind of dressed like a witchy farmer, a little witchy, right? So farmer-esque, kind of like tomahawk throwing farmer, like a white guy with maybe some Indian blood in it, real long straight hair or something like that. Like he'd look good in a farmer's outfit. He always wears like a vest over some sort of white. Anyway, he's a presenter. Anyway, point is that he wasn't accepting money, but the other fella, this real short kid in high school, who's he's pretty tall. He almost looks like he's 6 feet, a little shorter than I am, but big dude. And he was a tiny little fella. Like oh boy, he was just tiny. And then there was this other guy, Dunker. Dunker's a short dude, and he's always a short dude. Like he showed up and he was a short dude. But he had 4 kids, feeling good. Anyway, I made a call to swimmers. There were no swimmers. I was the only swim team person. A slew of them. Kind of trying to start something with the swimmers that didn't show up already on Facebook. So bummed. I went there, I threw good money at it, and I didn't see that, but I did see some good people. I had a good time. And anyway, the point is what do you put in place to accomplish a greater parameter or radius of goals, right? So there has to be a form of internal domestic diplomacies, not just merely actions and buffering and rebuffering against actions, but a type of testing the chalk line, testing the mutability of other people's ability to move both phenomenologically, to allow themselves, to bravely allow themselves to trust the next moment as if, hey, look, in lieu of something trying to kill me, I'm doing okay, right? Which is really the freedom domain. So it's almost like the youth of today are afraid of the freedom domain, and yet they'll waggle in it. They'll make some nice tattoos on their body, and they'll sling some verbal shit about. But it's all really pretty undercover. It's not really spoken out in public. It's not really spoken. I mean, it is spoken. People speak, but There's not a lot of extracurricular bullshit to really boil down what needs to be done policy-wise, worldwide, full spectrum policy. Anyway, the point is for me to find this weird gooey bifurcation that would have me run for president and yet gooily, not like a ghoul, but like gooeyly pull apart the limits of interpretation of one's whole zeitgeist, right? There's not, you could, excluding, barring vampires or immortals or Yodas that live for a very long time, right? People kind of die in these generational spots, right? And then there's a race to track the history on the z-axis, generational knowledge, against the and those who would prove to remove a type of laudation, I'll say lauding, the antithesis of throwing shade, I guess, right, on American history or on American contemporary concurrences. So the cross to bear, vertical is the contemporary, the historic is the long stem down the center, right? The cross is perpendicularly to the contemporary. Now, a generation might be the width of that board, the width of that intersection between that chalk line and that chalk line. And so how to push, let's say, something that looks like a cross, cross to bear, right? Crossroads, how to push it to the end so people are left with polarized views, and then how to properly answer a question as if that polarization also didn't exist in another person. They're dividing lines, they're projected snobberies or classists, stares, classist, judgmental, better than thou, separating from, otherly to, and preferred to be so selves, right? Away from just open dialogue, just play, just fodder of the mind. Fodder of the mind then is made isomorphic with confetti, or chaos of thinking, when it's merely a stepping back, viewing the confetti as a still frame to perhaps get trend lines of wind, right? Perhaps there's trend lines of wind. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys stare at that for a moment. I'm going to put a little music on. I got to grab a cup of Joe just for a moment, resettle into what it is I'm doing. It's probably going to be painting, so I got to push myself. The lack of productivity, a very crucial day, a very nerve-wracking thing. Some engineers, prop designers, other very intelligent engineering type of folks build solutions. And so one political thing is necessarily make certain that the minds with the drive and the yield of that of engineering will or engineering education to produce in conjunction, on the real world, in conjunction, obviously, with the education and all the insights of all the tech that is available for us. And then either how to retool those patents so they're yours, or to get access to the rights to use those patents, and then have the government step in as a type of subrogate that does an act of subrogation of insurance against each individual differently, in addition to providing education, roads for transportation, and so forth. With that, I'll leave you with for a moment. Be back shortly. Thanks for listening. Okay, can't keep you waiting too long. I'm going to get this started over here. Anyway, it's incumbent to make the world excellent. Wake up in the morning like fuck it. It's a holiday because I'm living, keep the tears and I'm fucking. I can't locate. I'm blessed, but at the same we can be in my way. Because of a past mistake, I'm speaking on reality. It's just one full of tragedy. Some days and not for me, I see one on one. With success, I'm screaming out powerful. I want this so I can act on my plans. The world needs saving, I'm feeling like Superman. Swinging and dapping there, because of my right hand. I'm always down the hand. Recovering my right hand. Hey. Say maybe I should start on this. I don't know. I got to work on it. Otherwise, I got this whole other piece over there. Okay, so here's the issue. If shit doesn't get corrected, there's going to be a war between the mind and the heart, mind and the will, if you will. Somehow, I don't think the computers are human, empathetic. I think the mind might win this one. And that little tossle isn't a description of how certain people may live. It's a description of the war of the mind and the will. How does one will into ontological, phenomenological, sociological space dialogues such that one can rise in popularity, fame, disclosure, information that's going to help. Just get big. It's down for a quickie. Same thing. Eventually, like deployed military, change, go run fast. That MMG, you know me. That's the last ditch. Better than the average. You can't look me on photo check. My team out there, and we don't play games. Cause we all about change. Hungry, let him go dig it down. And we don't change, but I'm gonna come back with my middle finger up. Cause I'm living life like I want to. See you later, say what you want to. It's just feeling something you want to. Drinks and grit, I'm sophisticated. I just feel like I made it. That's not because I'm faded. Probably because I made it. Like, right, I get them, but I don't want to make shit look scatty business. All right, bring it in. And she don't have Hillary, but got brain like Carl's big me. I'm lazy, baby. I'm so tired. I change too much. Honey, too hard, too hard, too hard. I'm way so cold. So many red cups. DJs when the music's up. Son DJ when the music's up. The red cups. DJ when the music's up. DJ when the music's up. All right. So, on being me, it's a quotidian, Don Quixote, trying to do quotidian nightmare on the outside. And an artist's wet dream on the other outside. So the whole idea is, making your soup, your sauce, your melting pot. If in fact it is a melting pot, In fact, as if we're all going down in flames, as if global warming is going to burn all the devils. If one sees themselves as a devil, one propagates the idea. So, as opposed to merely an art criminal or a bounty hunter or somebody that knows, at least to some extent, the bullshittery of Trump's game, right? That's me. All right, so this is not a policy. This is a get to know you. This is an intent video, if anything. If you do not stop, there will be a war. Stop a war. So, integration between one's influence, balance, how one balances the life between that which is a political goal, that which perhaps requires some sort of communal voting, a communal democracy, a way that the organization or group of individuals wants to move versus, the weight of that, the inclusion of one's innards in the group, like ceremoniously, religiously, but then with that severing tie of that newly found commonality, not for the sake of merely severing, because severing is not necessarily that great of a thing, right? But as a freeing device of oneself, as one may be entangled in a type of network of dialogic concepts that rely on them dogmatically. And then the political frame is like cats chasing a laser beam or red ball. Humans just follow the red ball. Listen to this. The news of what's important, it bleeds, it leads, is still true. And it's propagated as such. So everyone's got their ball on all the negatives, hoping for the new positives. And anyway, I thought just out of the mere face of Trump, there would at least be a gratification or a whole population if I stepped in that role. Simply because I think the best people that Trump's put in place were merely managers of bringing power closer to him. More direct executive power when he's got numbskulls that are running the antithesis of every division in the government. That alone. I'm not going to say it's treasonable. I'm not going to say it's not unorthodox, and so it might have some play. I'm just saying I think its yield is a type of dissolution of well, if we're lucky, it'll be the commercial contract codes. Or retooling of them, a redefinition of law structure, such that prosecutorial dominance is not allowed within equitable courts. The humans, if grieved, need to witness that grievance, and the legal system is way bogged down with too few jury trials. It's bogged down. If it had more jury trials, it would have to spend more. In order to acquire more locally, it has to run more racket, it has to tighten the laws just to afford to pay for the juries. So they don't do that. They don't do that. They don't want to do that. So domestically, our legal system's gone bad. And then Congress, NAFTA, the stealing away of our rights, Fourth Amendment, search and seizure, big problem. Big problem. The government has taken over basic constitutional rights, and somebody like Clapper can get on there, and Snowden can, whistle the alarm appropriately. And then you wonder, just like I wonder, and this might be a huge excuse, but in Star Trek, the Kobayashi Maru is only won by Captain Kirk, right? And not saying that I am Captain Kirk, they look like Captain Kirk, but I'm the captain of my own ship, and I've been less than brave with certain behaviors. I'm unfamiliar with the territory, so I'm unfamiliar with the will to fill in certain gaps, shoring up in my mind at maybe the most opportune moments. Getting to the high school reunion was one thing. It's very important in terms of its proof of life, faces. Hey, we all made it, and we came from this for whatever tangential considerations or group thoughts one might have about what they remember of different anecdotal figures that all of you may have stemmed from. Very important dialogue to have. Who was your favorite teacher in high school? I was asking people. So I'm like, I didn't have one. I don't know. I don't remember him. I was in the South parking lot smoking. The joke of the night, somebody like, because the West Siders went to the South parking lot and the East Siders went to the North parking lot in high school, right? So the joke was very much one of theirs of what's the South parking lot? Almost as if they had never even migrated over there to witness or disclose that that group is there. And I felt very awkward ordering a beer at this place. I did get coffee. Other Mormon folk were carrying water. There were some people that were married with kids that they didn't have spouses there, and other people that had spouses and had kids, and other times kid conversation didn't come up, and you didn't assume that anyone would need to speak about anything. So there was this coming to average, this minimalistic, like I was even out, I'm talking, I was out of bounds a little bit, out of range a little bit. And some lady, just this, just happy soul, just always bright, bright then, bright today, boom. It was just weird to see her. It was really cool. Egan. And anyway, all I know is it was good to see everybody in this, rare, peculiar grouping when the tangential, the network of relationships of people who you knew and people who you didn't know was more, the intersections seemed categorically huge, the joints, but the connections between them seem relatively thin, sparsed apart. Meaning, if like I met a guy that was there in a class of 600 and I didn't recognize his name, and I thought, hey, even though I have 51st dates sometimes, it takes me a little while sometimes to remember some things like names, especially the people that I think are fleeting, and they want some one-time amazing effect on you, right? Anyway, I did at least make it. I did at least make it. And I'm going to get some coffee. I'm going to show you how I made it. See, New York ate me up. New York ate my wallet. It ate my savings. New York. And the lady that came over to get the painting, this painting that I just sold, she was talking about her boy being 14 and how he whines and how he was the last kid. And so he protected, he was babied, he was coddled, and he whines, and the mom responds to whining, right? And then, because this is a very attractive woman, and I'm on the up and up with her. And it's good, and I've only ever known her platonically, but it's not that I didn't have interest in her, it's that there were reasons why we weren't even going to test the waters. That was then, and this snatch still looked interesting. Doll woman. Hey, doll, like sewed up at the seams, meaning she's, anyway, I won't say anything on that. Point is, got the coffee, let me show you these images. Point is, the purchase of the painting funded me out of the New York bankruptcy situation. Not bankruptcy, bankrupting me temporarily. Okay. Now, I'm not supposed to post these on online till September 15th. So that's why you guys are in for a treat. And this is strictly because she got the painting as a gift for her fiance and for his birthday. Okay, where are we at here? Let me see if this thing even comes on. Come on, fella. See, this computer's about ready to fall apart. The screen actually goes to sleep, but then there's a short in it as well where it'll blink out if the laptop is at the wrong angle. Okay, check one message first. Oh yeah, let's show you this. Okay, precursor. Explain a little. Anyway, I've been watching The Man in the High Castle. It's a goodie there. Okay, well, I could message this person, but first, what was I talking about? Oh, show you guys images. That's right. Let's see. See, this guy, his name is Dunker, right? He says he's got 4 kids. He's a tiny little fella. He knows my tiny first girlfriend. So they're both tiny. And anyway, that's not what I was going to show you guys. But interesting character, lady I grew up with. What do we got here? Oh, I'm gonna have to excuse you guys for a moment. Hey, can you hear me? Okay. Oh, well, I was just recording a video, some babble. Thought I'd check in with you earlier and see where you were. Right. What? The last thing that you said, I didn't pick up. Like. Yeah, I can. Hang on one second. Okay. Anyway, well, see that the radio's on because I'm doing an active recording. So right when you called, I hit the radio on so that you in the radio wouldn't be recorded, any clarity. Because I got it probably a multi-hour video of this blah 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 going on. Yeah. 15 feet away. But anyway, I can hear you a little better now. Yeah, I'm at my house. Yeah. Oh, I didn't. Oh. Well, it's kind of a pretty long story if I got into all the details, but yeah, it's well. I didn't. I went from Nashville. I had a good time, but it was also there was some friction. But for the most part, everything worked okay. And then took a Chinese bus to New York, and I was out of there within 72 hours. Flying out because the guy, Mike, in the video, who invited me out to New York, had a fit when I was in his place. He lives in a pretty small place. It's all thrown together, So, and it would maybe be like sleeping in someone's small motorhome or something like that. I mean, it was bigger than that, but it felt kind of like I was unnerving him, I think. Even though he let me shower and we hung out, we ended up clashing. He ended up kicking me out on the street. And I lose my phone. I end up sleeping on the side of a road by a Starbucks. I get up at 5:30 when the crowds are coming in New York and start using their Wi-Fi. At least my bank account worked. At least I didn't lose my wallet, you know. But not having the phone, well, I don't know. It got lost in the hustle of getting my shit and getting out there in time. You know, so. No. Into his place. Into his actual location. Oh my God, I poured 2 cups of coffee. Anyway, I was just gonna use the bathroom.
Let this wine calm your nerves, there's no need to worry. I'm a man, not a boy, I know your heart. And that's why I never toast to the fact that we ain't there. I see your friends mad cause they ain't shoes. They bounce me like track shoes. Focused on drama, front page, and not issues. Magazine stand, front page, favorite issue. Keep blinders on, let them talk, it's no issue. Any chance to hit, they're trying to post us back. For family and friends, keep your loose ends quick, cause opinions don't matter in the things we do. When we got together, it was just me and you know. And plus, we so they can see it way out. They ain't got no business in our shit. They ain't got no business in our shit. They ain't got no business in our shit. No, they ain't got no business in our shit. Service, they the few of those women everywhere, every section in the news close, faded off the hair, talking pretty, baby, here we go. Lighting up the side, rubbing candles like you feel it. Nigga, smoking no great dick, pillow tricks, pillow chicks, every party, take some shots and get it started, turn the cameras on recorded, what we do, they can't afford it, put your hands up in the air, we fucking with some players, send things everywhere, let them stare, we don't care, cause they know that in your business, they got my witness, as he stated with the dream, take no vision, do the shit, this wasn't me, keep it cheap, I was there with the paper, smoking money, fresh Jamaica, then I told him, see you later, this shit that happens with bad bitches like that, but I'm sipping on my teacup, get back to the tricks. Niggas say shit, these chicks ain't legal. Messing up happy homes cause they mad dead wrong. They run the social networks for attention and mention instead of by themselves. They don't pay attention. Nothing material, it don't matter how it listens if the feelings ain't real. You just another pill. See, I've been trying to build, we try to create a new field. We try to keep it real, we try to let them other guys that's just focused on these guys that'll make you lose your eyes and tell you not even lies. To me, your heart is a prize. Don't be surprised, just realize I'm nothing like the rest of them. To win, I'll be the man. You rockin' with the best of them. Let your worries fade. We ain't living like the rest of them. Shit ain't paying checks. Early morning fights in my scenes. I just say we live in lives.
Anyway, all I did was, Kristen was a little weird
It's around I swear it's funny, yo, but that before. It's just a pill, and my happiness is happy. This is how I live until I see it. Ownership and partnership in all business relationships. Married to my brand, but cup in my right hand. To death do his part, gotta play my part. Become a master of my role, but getting better since the start. Building my empire, a young Tony Stark. To run online, baby, to run spin fine lately, but working on mine lately, so focus my mind crazy. LK, we don't lead us all, man. Working with purpose, the policy on purpose. I guess I'm trying to say to round Charles to the surface. Everybody doing till we top of the food chain. Red cup gang, we come through in the mood This is how I live until my
Yeah. Anyway, I probably got to end this. Attributions. God, not that conversation. This here recording. Guys, dirty calls. Thanks for listening and playing, etc., etc. All right.